right, let's have a look. Patch 26.17 full preview. Okay, roaming supports. For the limited number of pro games, we've been seeing good movement on roaming supports and expect it to trickle down to solo queue over time. We'll still continue to monitor this and assess whether stronger swings are necessary, though we don't want to over-punish regular roaming and a small amount of unconventional roaming. Okay, I don't know. I still think support roams are a bit too free, but okay, like, it's true it's gone a bit better, and I think the two problematic champs were like, nerfed. As stated in previous posts and videos, while Xerath bot is a large part of the AP bot meta, we still think AP bots add to good long-term variety and add a healthy frustration to the role. Guys, I remember they made some tweet about this shit before, about healthy frustration. I don't know if I, like, quite agree with this as a concept. Maybe I just, like, disagree with the wording. I think healthy frustration is such a, like, weird concept. I think what they more mean is, like, okay, it's thing... Oh, it was in the Azet video? Okay, I haven't watched that. But when I read something like this, what I kind of get from it, what he's trying to say is, like, okay, there has to be things that are kind of different so that there's, like, a way to... like, overcome it, I guess, right? And that some of the skill or some of the satisfaction is in finding a way to deal with that. I think the problem is, though, there's a lot of the time where it's like the solution is something that happens like before the game. You know what I mean? So, for example, like Xerath bot, I think you basically just like either have the tools to deal with this or you don't. And also shit like, you know, just like really strong AP poke bots, they really limit the amount of things that can be blind picked. And personally, like, even though it is a valid way to counter these champs is just to draft better, I think like expecting people to draft better in solo queue, especially in bot lane because it's a duo role, I don't think that's where like the counterplay really should be. And I don't believe mages bot are like in a healthy counterplay state. You know, it is so much easier to play mages bot than it is to counter them. And I think they should honestly make it so you can't take TP bot. I swear to God, like, TP should be locked to the mid and top quest. And that would at least make it so they're much more punishable pre-first base. Because I think part of the problem with mages bot is, like, they generally don't get punished first base. They TP back, and then they have enough wave clear when they can just do whatever they want. In mid lane, like, the mages and stuff, they're able to punish these champs. So it's, like, fine. And I still, like, I don't know, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but I still think healthy frustration, like, you have to be so careful with this. Like, for example, like, would you consider something like Aurelia to be healthy frustration mid? I think you could maybe say that, like, Aurelia is kind of it's a champ that does, like, require knowledge to counter, right? Like, when you're playing against Aurelia, it's like, okay, you need to make sure you actually don't push the wave early, whereas against most champs you do. You need to just, like, kind of play safe, and, like, if you neutralize a lane, you'll be much better later. But it's like... I don't know, is it a, like, fun solution to be like, okay, yeah, I actually just can't do anything against Aurelia for the first 10 minutes or whatever. Do you guys, I don't remember it off by heart, but there's that Nemesis clip where he's talking about, like, I think it's Orianna versus Aurelia, and he says just, yeah, do nothing until, like, level 16 or something. You know what I mean? I just think all of this shit is, like, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with this as a concept. I think they really should be trying to remove things that create frustration. Again, I get that he's trying to say, okay, it's like nice to have some variety and force people to like think outside the box or whatever. But I think a lot of this is just like kind of just like bullshit, you know, like Shaco. I'm just random example off the top of my head. I don't think that's healthy frustration at all. That is just frustration. Anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to get, like, giga bogged down in that. If mages go bot equals good frustrations, if ADC goes mid, everyone loses their mind. Explain about how that is fair. Well, I don't think that's quite the same thing. In my opinion, it's like the way things are meta matters. For example, when Lucian mid was like very popular in like season 11, I think Lucian mid was fine in season 10 and season 11. Now, when ADCs were meta mid in season 14, it was because of Absorb Life and Fleet. And basically, like, they would just tank everything. They would just like dodge a bunch of skills with Fleet. If you did manage to hit them with something, they'd sustain it back up. And I think you'd probably find that like mages bot, not all of them are like that, but the mages bot that do just have shit tons of wave clear, like Xerath or Ziggs or something. You know, these champs that can't be punished, those are not exactly healthy either. But I think something like Swain bot, like, I don't know if Swain bot is exactly problematic, you know what I mean? It might, I think Swain is OP in general, that's like a different thing. My point is just that I think there's a healthy way for mages bot to be good. I think there's also a healthy way for ADC's mid to be good. But I think the current implementation of mages bot is like pretty cancer. So I think that should definitely be changed. Anyway, let's just keep going. Xerath is performing well in both mid and bot, especially for average play. Dude, it's funny they mention this because Dude, you guys complain about Xerath all the time. Like, Xerath mid, I think, sucks. I think it's super punishable, but I actually think it's kind of like Malzahar. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday. Like, if you don't know how to punish cooldowns, you don't know how to, like, zone off the wave and everything, you know, Xerath is pretty OP, if unpunished, right? But the whole thing is, if you rush boots and you punish the long cooldowns, you stand on the side of the wave, you dodge the skill shots, I don't think Xerath mid is, like, that functional. So, yeah. Pretty sure yesterday Shok said he hasn't liked balance the last couple months. Yeah, I don't think I like love the way Riot balances the game at the moment. Anyway, let's just keep going. Vayne top has been a strong champ at higher levels and also is a bit over the edge in terms of what we consider healthy types of available counterplay. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what exactly. Okay, yeah, no, it is that. I was gonna say, like, the thing with, like, Vayne and Varus is just that, like, they're so tanky. You know, in my opinion, range top, the charm, I don't know if charm's the right word, the niche, let's say, of range top has always been, okay, like, yeah, range top is really strong, but it's, like, very, very precise, right? It's very volatile. If you make one mistake, you just fucking die. But nowadays, dude, I saw a Vayne get hooked by a Darius yesterday and win the fight, you know? And, like, okay, maybe Darius is behind, whatever, I don't know. But the fact that you can get away with shit like that because of how tanky your first item is, I think is a really big problem. So, I think they should nerf the item. I think Hexblade is, like, so much of the issue, more than just the champ itself. And also, it's like, is there a champ that uses Hexblade that isn't, like, problematic? The only one I can think of is maybe Nocturne, but, like, Nocturne himself is overtuned, right? So, like, if they just nerfed Hexblade, it's like, what? It's like Varus, Vayne, Nocturne? Does anyone else play Hexblade? I think that's just, they should just do that. Oh, Olaf as well. Yeah, okay, Olaf's fucking broken too, so they could just nerf Hexblade and it would be good for the game. I think it would just be good for the game. I swear they should, like, look to nerf items and runes way more than champs. You know, not that they should only nerf items and runes, but in my opinion, nerfing items and runes is, like, way, way, way more important than nerfing champs. And it's also more interesting, I think. Okay, broadly, range tops fill a similar niche to Mage Bot, which is to add long-term healthy variety to the role. Yeah, like, again, I agree with this somewhat, okay? Like, there are, in my opinion, healthier range tops. For example, like Kennen, or, like, Jace, what else? Like Gnar, maybe? But I don't think Vayne and Varus belong in top lane, okay, guys? Like, I don't know. I don't think that's the same thing at all. I don't think that's the same thing at all. Even though it can be frustrating at the moment, it adds to their satisfaction. Yeah, sure. I don't think anyone enjoys playing against Vayne or Varus, so just delete them both. One of the principles we hold is there needs to be counterplay to frustrating experiences, a combination of tactical and strategic. Okay, I agree with this. I think one thing Riot doesn't seem to do very well with this is, okay, it's not enough for there just to be counterplay, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but I believe the counterplay should be, like, roughly equal skill to the execution. So if something is, like, really easy to play, in my opinion, it should be quite easy to counter. Now, you have to be careful how far you take that, because should it be that just, like, all the easy champs are completely useless and the only champs that are viable are super hard? Probably not, right? But I don't think the counterplay should be like, okay, in order to counterplay, like, the range top, you need to have, like, the move on support, you need to have, like, a mid with prior, you need to have, like, ganking jungler, and you need to have, like, blind pick correctly top. Like, that's a lot of setup to shut down what is basically fifth pick on red side, you know what I mean? And I kind of, you know, going beyond that, I think there's things like, for example, counterplaying into, I don't know, like, D-Shield second wind is, like, much more difficult than executing D-Shield second wind, like, stuff like that. Mundo, Garen, Malphite should be useless beyond Plat. So yeah, I don't agree with useless. I do think, like, this should be on the weaker side, though. You know? Like, I think I'm okay with stuff like Malphite and Mundo being situational. Even, like, Garen and Malzahar. But I think as pickable as they are, everything minus Malzahar, I think is kind of AIDS. Think about these things from a solo queue perspective or pro player both. I mean, I try and think about it from both, but I would say I'm, like, mostly thinking about it from solo queue. Because, like, I think I'd say range top and competitive is a bit different. You know, same with, like, the support roaming thing. Yeah. Anyway, we don't think it's too far off, and Vayne... Okay, wait, we missed something. She can be a combination of tanky. Okay, whatever. She is still going to be baseline on the frustrating side as a range shaman that can be played top lane. Dude, again, like, I agree, but I swear, like, Vayne is so much more cancer than shit like Kennen. I don't know, maybe top laners disagree. Okay, keep going. Change hopefully results in our lane opponents having slightly more health, alright? Yasuo and Yone. We're improving the incentives for Yasuo and Yone to build more crit items in the short term, especially on first item. Dude, that's interesting. From a mid laner's perspective, I just think Bork is so much better. Like, if you're playing any sort of poke champ into Yasuo or Yone, and they go Kraken instead of Bork, like, it's so much easier to deal with them. I swear you just go, like, Bork, Shield, Bow, IE, and it feels great. Long term, we want them to feel good about buying Crypt, but we know none of these items feel quite right. Okay, interesting. LeBlanc, a while ago when Static Shiv was an extremely good one-stop shop wave clear item, we had to nerf LeBlanc's attack speed ratio. After we reworked Shiv to be more about on-hits, we didn't restore it, so restoring this and giving her a small buff, as she's not strong in any particular healer bracket. Dude, that's kind of interesting. Like, where they mention she's not strong in any particular healer bracket, in my opinion, that's, like, way more meta. You know, like, LeBlanc is never going to be good in low elos. The champ's just too hard, you know, simply put. Like, if you're good at LeBlanc, you'll stomp low elo, but it's just hard, man. It's fucking hard champ. High elo, it's like, the problem with LeBlanc right now is you're going to lane against something with Catalyst almost certainly. Like, most of the blind picks are Catalyst users, right? So you can think of things like Ryze or Cassio. If you're not laning against Catalyst, you're laning against something with a just insanely broken laning phase, right? You're laning against something like Syndra, Ori, or you're laning against Victor, you know, stuff like that. I think LeBlanc counterpick is still really, really good, but it's just like kind of metagap. I also think you've got to be really careful doing stuff like this, because think of it like this, okay? If you buff LeBlanc to be able to compete with the current meta, it's like, well, what happens if you're suddenly not playing something that is super meta, right? Now you just like can't use that champ at all, right? Let's say right now you play something like, I don't know, trying to think of a champ that's like viable but not amazing. I'm sure there's lots of them, but my point is just that I think, again, they should actually take a look at nerfing shit like Catalyst rather than just, like, power creeping over and over. Because, like, dude, the more you power creep things, the, like, bigger the gap gets between, like, the best champs and the worst champs. And then they have to do more work to bring up the worst champs. So, I don't know. LB is good in Syndra. The 1v1's actually not that good. It's good, like, pre-6. Gets pretty bad later. If you have gank set up, you know, like, if you... And this is the case with LeBlanc and anything. If you have, like... You know, Jarvan, Leona, LeBlanc, like, you can beat anything. Okay, but pure 1v1, it's actually, like, kind of scary if you're not getting the ganks. Okay, Nasus. Made some adjustments to Nasus. Sure, whatever. While we suspected this change to be over magnitude, we wanted to get a clean read. Okay, whatever. Reducing some of the net total sustain he gets in top lane to make those high stack counts a bit more challenging. Okay, whatever. Let's look at the actual numbers. Wow, they did a lot of shit to Cho'Gath. I'm surprised Cho'Gath gets buffed. That's right, this champ is fine. Okay, so E, 20 to 100 to 30 to 110. AP ratio the same. Scaling the same. Okay, so just a bit more base damage. I guess, yeah, it's meant to be so you can, like, fight back a little more. Aurelia, QAD ratio up. This is kind of interesting. Yeah, kind of interesting. I do kind of like the idea of giving Aurelia, like, a bit more scaling, but I'm honestly kind of surprised they gave it to damage. I think it would be kind of nice if Aurelia had, like, lower cooldown on R, maybe, or if she were, like, a tiny bit tankier. Something like that. I think... Yeah, I don't know. Or they could, like, nerf the landing phase or something and give her some strength later. I just think, like, I don't feel like Aurelia really lacks damage late. And I guess what they don't want is Aurelia to just become, like, a even crazier tanky stat checker or whatever. But I don't know. I don't think this really fixes the problem of Aurelia just really sucking in 5v5s until you get super tanky. So I'm not sure. It's probably good for the Aurelia one tricks. Don't think it makes a huge difference to everyone else. Okay, LeBlanc attack speed ratio is up, but the growth is down. So this just means, I guess, like, it's a bit easier to farm with autos early. W and RW AP ratio up. That's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Like, it makes farming a bit more consistent throughout the game. You know, one of the things on LeBlanc is, like, if you accidentally fall just, like, a little too far behind, you can't clear creeps anymore, which is a big thing. So this is probably a good change for that. Doesn't make her more playable into the Catalyst users. I guess kind of. Like, you could argue she doesn't need to get as ahead. Nerfs to Mage's bot are pretty good for LeBlanc because she wants to be solo AP. To be honest, I still think she's probably just going to be counterpicked here, you know, and now she's going to be, like, even more cancer as a counterpick, right? Even more cancer as a counterpick. Okay, Kiana. So they buffed, wow, just, like, straight buffs. Okay, base damage and bonus AD. That's kind of crazy. I think, dude, yeah, wow. I'm surprised Kiana gets buffs. I think they have a hard time here balancing between Kiana jungle and mid, because I could agree that maybe Kiana mid is, like, a little too weak. But Kiana jungle might even be, like, a little too strong in solo queue. So that's kind of scary. And definitely makes her, like, chase down potential in lane a little stronger. Yeah, kind of scary. Okay, Yasuo and Yone. I don't think this is, like, a huge buff because they probably still will just be playing, like, Bork first item. I think the biggest thing with this, though, is, like, Yone definitely does not need a buff of, like, any sort. You know, like, Yone just got the fleet buff, and he got the tier 3 boots buff, like the Berserker Greaves. I think Yasuo could still use some help, but I don't think I think Yone needs a nerf now. I think Yone counter pick is just ridiculously broken, so it's kind of a surprise he's getting a buff. Yeah, I really don't think that champ needs a buff. WAS on Trundle. Okay, whatever. I mean, I don't play any Trundle, so it's kind of whatever. ASOL, Q mana cost down. Ooh, that's kind of nice. That is kind of nice. I actually think that's a big deal because the best ASOL builds are ones where you play double mana. You play like Mana Flow and Presence of Mind or whatever, and then you don't build any mana items, but it is still quite rough, right? Like you have to manage your mana really well. I think if you can avoid building Blackfire and if you can avoid building Tier, the champ is kind of solid. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it actually fixes his issue again. You know, like, the big problem with ASOL is that there's so many matchups where you can't W forward. And if you can't W forward, you just get poked out, right? Like, playing ASOL into something like Syndra, or playing ASOL into Yone, or something like that. Like, into Yone, you lose the extended trades. Same with Cassier. Into Syndra, or into Ahri, or anything you can't W on, you just get poked out for free. I think ASOL is, like... Yeah, I still don't know if he's going to be good enough to be played, to be honest. It is a nice buff, I think. You know, like, it's... If you're an ASOL main, I think you appreciate that quite a lot. But I also don't think it really fixes his problem in the meta. It's kind of what I think. Graves, yeah, big nerfs, right? Like, yeah, down 10 bonus ID is pretty nice. Q return damage. Okay, scales worse, but has... Okay, overall, just, like, less damage. Okay. I think that's, I mean, yeah, Graves needs nerfs. Champ's pretty cancer, so cute. They're nerfing Nasus Sustain. Kind of nice, yeah. It's also kind of nice because, like, whenever you see Nasus mid, like, this champ just heals shit tons. I don't think that's enough, though. Pretty sure it's still going to be really good. Nocturne, base armor down and base HP down. Okay, like, fake nerfs. This champ is still Thanos. I think he's still the most picked jungler in competitive right now, or most banned or some shit. Can't remember. Yeah, I mean, that's fake news. Thresh, active, E active. Okay, E active means not your order, right? Yeah, E active must mean the other one. Your fly or whatever. Damage is just down. Wait, Thresh is getting nerfed? Really? Guys, do we think Thresh is OP? When I think of the most OP supports, I don't think I would have even considered Thresh. That's kind of wild. And they're nerfing the AP ratio as well. Okay. Guys, AP Thresh is like taking over. Alright, what do they do to Vayne? So, more base HP, but less scaling. More regen, but less scaling. Okay, so it looks like they're just overall making her, like, slightly better early at the cost of scaling. So I guess, like, she scales less well with levels to try and make her weaker top. Q mana cost being up is kind of interesting. Nerf to W true damage. Nerf to W minimum damage. I still think the big thing they need to do to Vayne is just delete, or not delete, but, like, really nerf Hexblade. I think Hexblade is so problematic. Okay, and then these are the Xerath bot nerfs. So a little bit lower armor, 2 armor, I don't think really makes a difference. You know, the thing with Xerath is that you're not getting punished pre-first base bot, and then what happens is you get your wave clear, and then you just, like, clear, and you don't get punished. So I don't think that really changed anything. Q, base damage being down by 5, also, I don't think really fixes bot. If anything, that's, like, more of a punishment to mid, in my opinion, and... yeah, I just don't think Xerath mid is, like, that much of a problem. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this really takes Xerath out of bots, to be honest. I think it'll still be pretty good there. I don't know, you have, like, slightly less wave clear, maybe, but, like, is 5 gonna make the difference? Makes it so you can't double Q level 3 with double AP shard. Okay, yeah, maybe. Possibly there's a breakpoint that makes a difference there. My gut feeling is this doesn't make a difference, because I don't think Xerath bot will really be playing aggro unless you've got, like, double ranged pre-6 anyway. I think you're just mainly playing Xerath bot to wave clear. I agree, if you're playing double ranged into, like, range plus melee, you can play pretty aggro. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. My guess is this, again, is kind of fake. I'd like to see a Xerath, like, I don't know, I'd like to see... what would I like to see? I'd like to see him have a real passive, I think would be cool. I don't really like Xerath's passive. Okay, finally, Storm Razor buff. I don't think there's that many champs that use this, and a nerf to Sundered Sky. Nerf to Sundered Sky is good. I really wish they would do some larger nerfs, though, just, like, across the board. Like, in my opinion, I would like to see... what would I like to see nerfed? I think they should nerf Sundered Sky, Maw, Death Dance, Catalyst, probably Sworks, if I'm honest. In theory, Darksteel should be getting nerfed, but, I mean, they'll never do it because we love Darksteel and they'll never do that. I think there's a lot of... oh, they need to nerf DFT as well. DFT needs a fucking massive nerf. I think Unflinching needs a nerf. What else? There's probably a lot of other things. Yeah, no nerfs on Cinder is insane. I don't know. There's like so many fucking OP champs in the game. Like mid has a lot of them actually. I think mid has plenty of OP champs. I honestly don't get how they do balance, guys. Like I look at this and I'm thinking, okay, like of the most OP mids, right? So in my opinion, the most OP mids right now, we've got like Cassio, Syndra, Ori, Ryze, maybe Counterpick Akali, maybe like Locke. And they're all like completely untouched. No rune changes, no item changes. You could argue like buffing stuff like Yone maybe nerfs them like a tiny bit, but I don't know, man. Like, I think they're just buffing off win rates, and I think that is just so. It's not useless, but it leaves so many champs in like undertuned or overtuned states for so long. I think they really need to, like, just straight up. I think they need to use their eyes, man. It's almost like you want your favorite champs to be nerfed. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I love playing these champs, but there's tons of champs that I really like playing that I can't play because they're just not good enough. For example, I would love to play Zoe, and I think Zoe is kind of good if you like one trick and you play Electric Ignite, but like ultimately, I just don't think Zoe's worth it in the meta. And if these champs weren't as strong, maybe I would play it. I'd like to play LeBlanc, so like that being buffed is good. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I do love like the OP champs currently. Like I like the meta, but there's a bunch of other champs like Azir and Zoe and LeBlanc that I would love to play too. And it's just like the current meta means I can't, you know? I don't think it's worth it. And for someone who's playing at a very high rank, like I'm like rank 7 right now, it's like, okay, yeah, I could play something like Azir, and it's like viable, but I'm putting myself at a pretty sizable disadvantage, right? And I don't want to do that. Like one of the things I hate the most is being in a losing spot before the game even begins. Like losing in champ select or being behind in champ select because you have a bad matchup or whatever. That pisses me off so much. I hate that.